It is now 9 o'clock here in Waco, Texas, and time to get started with our Right Stuff group. And I'm hoping, I know that some people are going to come in late because they told me they would, but I'm hoping more people show up. We need to get more people on these calls, but I see that Alan Hudson Pillar is with us today. How you doing, Alan?
Good morning, Sam. Doing fine.
Great.
Looks,
Eh,
looks
eh,
like we're the only one on the West Coast.
Well, looks that way. Karen, how are you doing today?
If I can find that mute button, I'm doing fantastic.
Okay, I see you placed an order yesterday for 5 programs. Is that an in-house or was that for a showcase?
It's an in-house, and I'm super excited while we're waiting for people. So you know how much I love cold calls. And so I placed a bunch of cold calls a week and a half ago, made 4 appointments out of those, I think 20-something phone calls. And I made closed a deal for 2 EPPs yesterday
All
from a
right.
cold call. Woohoo!
Hey, they work. That's how I got started because I didn't know anybody. So when I moved to Tucson, out of the clear blue, so it does happen. It takes a lot of work, but it does happen. Now, your in-house, what industry is that with?
That is a municipality. It's the city of Pekin, where I live.
Okay, boy, we got a lot of people who sell the municipalities, including Lane, and I see that Lane is with us. How you doing, Lane?
I'm doing fine this morning. Good. How's everybody?
Well, thank you.
Lane, are
Uh,
you working on getting some other municipalities, or are you still only dealing with the
I
one?
have been working this past 2 weeks. I've been working very hard on 3 municipalities, Springdale, Rogers, and Bentonville, and with the in conjunction with our NWAC, which is Northwest Arkansas Community College, that I'm getting set up with to do continuing education with them. And we're going to be doing something with everybody starting late December or 1st of January. So I'm looking at probably about 5 to 10, participants, and starting out with the EPL, the EPP, and the ELD. One of those 2 programs, in other words, we'll be doing.
Fantastic. Are you registered for convention yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. That means that
Not
there's
yet.
still hope.
There's still hope.
All
I'm
right.
well. I'm trying to figure out which way I'm gonna go. Whether I'm gonna stay with my daughter in Fort Worth or stay there in Plano. We have some friends. We used to live in Plano years ago, so I was trying to figure out which way I'm gonna go.
All right. Well, you could still register. Just don't have to stay at the whole. You have to call Diana and say what's it going to cost for me to register
Yeah.
without staying at the hotel because I have
Right.
relatives and friends there, whatever.
Correct.
Yeah, you can get that done.
All
And
right.
Rennick's here. So, Rennick, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good, Sam. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Sam.
Morning. Are you registered for convention?
What's that?
You should laugh.
No, I'm like Lane. Not yet, not yet. I'm coordinating a bunch of things at my end. I've got to get a few things buttoned down before I know my schedule. I'm hoping to be there, but it'd be premature for me to commit right now.
Okay. How are you doing on your national account certification?
Well, that's a work in process. Again, I've got these other key, I call them projects that I have to have scheduled. There's still some uncertainty, but as that is established, I'll have a better sense of how and at what pace to move forward with certification.
Well, I'll let you know that Karen has already sent in her video and it's under review.
Oh, cool! Congratulations, Karen.
Thank you.
And I know that LMI Chicago has her listed as the go-to person in that area because they're getting some work with the MEP, well, whatever they call it there in Illinois, and they're making some progress. And I talked with Jeff about that, and he definitely says, "Oh, we're going to use Karen because she's working on her national certification, and she will have that probably by convention."
Oh, that's awesome.
Way to go, Karen.
So,
And I am going to convention. My registration is on my desk. I'm waiting to hear back from Linda, the associate that I have in New York, and we are. I'm trying to convince her to make the investment to go with. That'll be her first convention. So
that, without a shadow of a doubt, that will be a turning point for her.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, now is John Kiefer, are you here by chance? No? Okay. Well, Merlin registered for our next EPL class starting in January, and he has John Kiefer as his mentor. That's going to be interesting. So that's something pretty cool. Okay, is there anybody else online like Pete or anybody else that I don't see on my list? Oh, okay. Well, today's session, we were going to be talking about establishing meaningful, realistic, upfront win-win agreements. And I know that Roxana is one of the people who wanted to talk about this, and she said she's going to be coming in, but she's going to be a little late today. The challenge is we had a time change and they didn't, so she has things a little bit different in how she has to organize her time. Okay, who would like to start?
Sam, I can start. Rennick here.
All right.
Yeah, I think I'd shared previously the use of that one-page, what do we call it? The assessment, the one that the pre-course conference, as a way to jog people's memories and give them some framework for the purpose of identifying, first of all, their challenges.
Now, this is the one that the manager fills out or whoever, and then the participant fills out on themselves, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody understands which one we're referring to.
Yeah, the pre-course assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And so once that is completed, then individuals are better able to identify their challenges. It's less vague. It's more focused. There's some preciseness to it. So I use that as the starting point for them to identify and list in priority their challenges, and then from that there is then a discussion regarding what has happened in the past or what's happening currently that causes them to identify those as challenges. What are they not experiencing? What results are they not obtaining? What would they like to be different? You know, so that frames it. That gives some more concreteness to it, and then, and only after then, we talk further. Quite often with the mentor supervisor to again glean some additional insight based on his or her responses to that pre-course assessment, and then we go into setting goals. Generally, it's a site sheet where they just essentially drop their goals without necessarily trying to prioritize them, and then we discuss those goals, each of them, to ascertain the magnitude, the importance, the priority they want to give to them, the significance, I should say. And then, and only after that's established, that discussion takes place, do we seek to then prioritize them. with the most important first, and then progressing through to 4, sometimes 5. I try to keep them not going to 5, focusing on 3, because that brings greater clarity to the goals that we really should strive for during the program. Only after we've identified 3 might we go on to 4 or 5.
Okay. And talk to me a little bit about how exactly you get to, you're talking about result. How do you get to the behavior aspect of the results that they want to accomplish?
It's interesting you throw that up because, I know in the kickoff, we cover that causation between space repetition and results. But I use that consistently. I use that in sales interviews. I use it at this stage, and I use it certainly in the kickoff and during the course of the program. But that's the model that I use as a visual for framing that discussion. In other words, given the goal, and we focus on specificity, then the question becomes, looking, Sam, at this model, which we've discussed before, which you've agreed is a model for changing results through changing behavior. In your opinion, as you seek to achieve this goal, what behaviors, in your opinion, will need to change so that you could maximize the probability of achieving it? All right, so that would be the question I would ask. And so as we talk about, and as they identify the behavior, then the question becomes, would it be helpful then for us to, as we go through this process, identify those ideas, the content, the information, the examples that will help you recognize how to change behaviors and how to develop the habits necessary for changing those behaviors.
Okay.
Are you committed? Are you committed to doing and following the process that helps you and that will help you change those behaviors? Go ahead, Sam.
Okay. Well, I wrote down what are they doing now that they shouldn't be doing, and what should they not do that they're doing. In other words, looking at those aspects so I can get a grasp, because turning the sometimes, how could I put it, the intangibles to more of a tangible, and getting them to commit, or not necessarily commit, but agree that, okay, if we change these behaviors, okay, will you be satisfied that we were able to achieve the goal? Sometimes we change the behavior, but the time differential between the behavioral change and the actual results and bottom line, because if we're trying to measure through, how can I put it, have something up there that you can grab and say, okay, how are we going to measure this, et cetera, et cetera. Now I want a 10% increase, whatever. Okay, there's a lag between what you do and what you get. But if they say, if you can change that behavior, we know that the results will come and the bottom line will come. And the hardest thing for an organization to do is behavioral change in a positive framework. Because how do most companies work on behavioral change? most of the time it's in a negative framework. They don't always move towards a positive framework on a win-win basis like we do. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and it's not monitored. It's or not consistently to the point of it being clearly habitual. It's usually anecdotal. It's usually at the end of the year when they're, or maybe if they're doing quarterly reviews, the end of a quarter, when that discussion occurs, and then during the next quote unquote marking period or review. But it's not monitored like we do it on a weekly basis, through such mechanisms as a 1 to 31 day tracking sheet, for example, right? Through weekly coaching sessions, which is typical with our process.
Okay. You did a great job with that. What response
Thank you.
do we have from the other people on the call?
Sam,
For
this is
me-
Alan.
Oh, go ahead, Alan.
Okay. What I resort to is what attracted me to LMI to begin with is the LMI process. When you're aware of something, what are the results you want to get, from that awareness? And then it becomes a planning and development process. And what I look for is that, how do we make it a SMART goal where it's specific, measurable, attainable, and realistic, and tangible. And, that this is the challenge is that, when I came to LMI, I was intrigued by managing commitment and not people. And so I pretty well adopted the idea that when we manage the commitment and potential of ourselves and others, give them the respect of being different. And when we put this process to a measurement, there's always a predictable outcome. So it's trying to figure out, who you're dealing with. And, the way we're set up now to have manager mentors, it puts a little bit more complication into it, but it really is the method for getting the results you want. And it's adhering to the communication triangle above the process that's in the certification. And, when we do this, then you have a number of people that are in this process. And, from our viewpoint, I think we want to see a show me, not a tell me, that shows a commitment, to this triangle. And the bottom line is that you want to be able to see progressive results in this. And, all the stuff that Remick is talking about is part of that. So, it's a process. And, how do we visually see that as we move forward?
Okay. Karen?
Mute button, sorry. For me, this is I would say this is one of my bigger challenges is because I'm not as familiar with the win-win as the rest of you are. We used a mutual commitment agreement in Canada, and so I've recently been switching over to use the win-win, which is kind of the same thing. But I struggle. My biggest struggle would be helping someone to establish a goal that, like, they'll come to the table with a goal that it's not even SMART, and so I'm finding it challenging. So I just started using the pre-conference thing that I think it was Rennick that spoke earlier. I do, like what Alan was referring to, I do talk about that. So I can't give you any words of wisdom or nuggets of greatness because I'm just going to learn on this session here.
Okay. Well, one of the things that we find is helpful is looking at actual scenarios, actual things that are happening with you in the workplace. Okay. So when you're looking at that, and you have an in-house that you sold to the municipality, and they bought that for some reason. Okay, they're not going to pay you to do it just because they feel like doing it. Why? What are they looking for? What were their prime buying motives?
So I've sat down with 3 of the 5 that are in the group. The first person was.
Let's back up.
Yep.
The city is paying for it, not the individuals.
Correct.
Why did the city want these 5 individuals? What do they want?
I can only go based on the one person that I originally sold it to, who is a participant, and they want to be more organized because they're overwhelmed and swamped, and that is not a goal. So I think is my struggle, and I'm right in the middle of this process of helping them set a goal. So this is perfect timing for me. But the city wants credibility, or if who am I? A person that lives in the city. If a member of the city calls and asks a question and they don't have an answer, they look incompetent. They look like they don't know what's going on. So the city wants them to not just have the appearance of competency, but to be on the ball, to be, confidently and competently overseeing and running their areas with excellence. And that's been real hard because from what I gather, the people over the ones that I have don't really care, and there's a big, big gap of communication.
Okay. Anything else?
I forgot my notes of when I sat with her last.
Yeah. Now, see, all this is important simply because the effective win-win starts with doing an effective prime buying motive. Because if you don't know why the company's buying it, I mean, we have 2. We have the participant, and that's fine and dandy. But if we don't solve the problem with the economic decision maker, the person who's actually footing the bill, okay, then we have happy participants, but we may not have happy client.
Right.
Okay, so go ahead.
I was going to say, obviously they had to present. I made a presentation to them. They were, they had a buy-in immediately. These 2 people that I spoke to went to the city council, submitted the proposal. They agreed. And so I can only go on what they presented to me was that they need better organizational skills to be able to manage their departments properly.
Okay. Did you ask them for examples?
Yes, and it's 5 completely different departments. So, like one particular is they have the city clerk. She was telling me they have hundreds and thousands of policies, but none of them are at their fingertips. So, whoever answers the phone gives the policy that they can find first instead of maybe the most current one. So for her, being more efficient and more organized would be to have everything all in one system so that no matter who answers the phone has the same information.
Okay. That's good. Do you know where you're going with all this, or would you like some input from the peanut gallery?
I think you know me well enough by now. I am so open to anything. I am a very good learner.
Okay. Who would like to take a shot at this first?
This is Lane. I'll give a shot at it. From past experience, now that I've been working with the cities for the last 3 to 4 years, actually 5 years, we primarily with one group of the city that I have been working with that did a total leadership process that their goal was to prepare their people that will step up to the next level to become managers or directors of departments. That was their primary goal. And that's how we got involved in the total leadership process for the 13 months. I made a mistake in letting the HR person send out memos with information to all the department heads and saying, blah, 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 this is what we're going to be doing. It was not explained well enough to the department heads to do this. So we got some of the people we got in our first class were not really how would I put it? They were potential, but at their present jobs, they were not ready to step up into something like that or start working on those type of positions. So what I have suggested and what we're setting up is I will meet with, we're going to have a group of all the department heads, and I'm going to sit down with them and go over exactly what the total leadership process is and what is expected of the participant as well as the mentor or the manager, depending on who it is, of what their responsibilities are and how the system works and how the process works and time-wise and what they need to be involved in, what they also need to set, what goals that need to be due. Now, that's what I'm doing as of starting this month, meeting with the department heads and going through that to start a new total leadership process for the city of Bentonville in January. Primarily, what I've started out with also when we did the win goals, I start out with a goal planning meeting first so that they get involved with the goal planning and they understand what a SMART goal is and how to recognize it and what it is, instead of coming in and saying, I want to be able to increase my time productivity. Well, how? We're going, we got to be specific in what we're doing, and so we can measure this thing in that relationship. So we're starting out with 3 different goals. One is, and this is what I learned from Sam when we did our EPL class with him, is we did a development goal, a personal goal, and an organizational goal. Just only 3 of those that would go through the first class. And as we go on, we're looking at, I increased it up to a total of 5, 1 more development and 1 more organizational goal from as an overall goal that we want to accomplish for the 13 months. But starting out, we need to keep it pretty simple and what we can do, and so that they show that they are making progress.
I just had a thought. Okay, I know, believe it or not. We have enough people working with municipalities that if there isn't something already on the internet, which there may be, dealing with best practices for municipalities, it would be cool if we can pull something like that together and actually publish it, use it in order to make sales, but also to gain credibility within municipalities as to what we're capable or able to do with municipalities, and have it so that we can say best practices for this type of city, or this type of city, or this type of city or municipality, and with population, et cetera, et cetera. Thoughts?
I think it's good. I know that I use those sites just to help me when I either prospecting for a particular type of company or organization. So it's been very helpful to me. So I know it would be helpful to others as well as, like you mentioned, the credibility factor. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think that would be a cool item. In fact, I know that we can get Jonah to do some articles on that if we can get him the information. Okay, I'm deviating from what we're basically here to discuss, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Sam, I think it's an excellent idea, and it applies to the different verticals that we work in. The same would apply to manufacturing or banking or any of those industries, because it builds credibility and it gives them the prospective clients a clear sense of what others in their industry have struggled with, have overcome, have improved, and the results they have had that they too, if they follow the process, could have themselves. So I think it's an excellent idea.
Cool. All right, I have that down on my list of something to do. Okay, who else would like to address Karen and her scenario? Karen, are you familiar with the 5 reasons why people don't do what you want them to do?
No.
Okay, and this may be helpful in dealing with, because sometimes they want something done, but they're really not sure where the challenge is. And there's only 5 reasons why people don't do what you want them to do. 1, they don't know they're supposed to do it. 2, they don't know how to do it. 3, they don't want to do it. 4, they're not capable of doing it. And 5, there's an organizational block. Did you get those down?
Yes. If I can read my handwriting, yes.
Okay,
So one, they don't know how to do it. Two, no, one, they don't know what to do.
correct,
Number two, they don't know how to do it.
correct.
Number three, they don't want to do it.
Hmm.
Number four, there's no capability to do it.
They don't
And
have the
number
capability to do it.
five, they don't have the capability. Sorry, it's a shorthand here. And number five, there's an organizational block.
Okay, what's the solution to the first one? What kind of
Uh,
problem is that?
well, that's a simple one. That's communication.
That's right, that's a communication problem. What's number 2?
That's delegation or empowerment. More delegation, I think.
Or training. They don't know how to
Yeah.
do it. They need, and that could
Okay.
be, a training in whatever. Okay, what's number 3?
Yeah. Attitude
Right, which is a
or motivation.
motivation. Okay, okay, and everybody is motivated. Some people are motivated not to do anything, but they're motivated because they spend. I know that working in the steel industry, we had people who spent more energy trying to get out of work than it would have taken just to do the job. Okay. Anyways, that's something else. That's motivation. Which number 4?
They are not capable. Yeah. I don't know if you can train someone that if they don't have the capability to do it. So that's just the wrong person.
Right, which is
A hiring issue.
right. It's a selection problem.
Okay.
You're trying to put a square peg in a round hole, and
Yeah.
sometimes you will come across people within an organization that they have promoted because they were a great worker, but they have no capability, no desire, no motive, nothing in order to be able to do the job at a higher level. It's the old Peter principle.
Yes.
Okay. And then what's number 5?
An organizational block. Um,
Yeah, that's a a
You're in the
unique one.
wrong company. I don't
No,
know.
organizational block is they don't have the tools to do it, and it could be you want people to do uh, to, to to answer the phone, but they don't have a phone. I mean, whatever. There's an
Yeah.
organizational block, something that's stopping them from doing it, and it could be a delegation or an authority type of thing. You want them to do
Okay.
this, but they don't have the authority to do it. Okay, so it's an organizational block. But by presenting those to a client when you're in a scenario of working on uh, developing a good win-win agreement, when they say, well, I want this, and then you ask them a question and they go blank or they're not sure. Okay, say, well, there's only 5 reasons why the person doesn't do what you want them to do. So if you say, they say, well, I want them to do this. Well, why aren't they doing it? I don't know. Okay. Well, there's only 5 reasons. Which one of the 5 could it be? So
Mhm.
again, what all I'm doing here is we call it bracket focus. Narrow it down, bring it down, shorter, till you get to the crux of the matter, and that might be beneficial in doing that. And again, one of the first things that need to be done in order to do a good win-win is to get some good prime buying motives, where when you go in, you can bring that up and then work down from there. I just thought I'd throw that out. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Okay.
And
Anybody?
Sam, yeah,
Yes.
Sam, if I could add, what you just walked us through is so pertinent in every organization, but I found it particularly so in governmental institutions, where people don't get fired so easily as they do in the private sector, and where sometimes they're dragged, yelling and screaming into some of these training sessions, um, and quite often resisting change, not wanting and not wanting to do what the leader would like them to do. So to help that leader think through very sequentially the reasons that their team members might not want to do the program or elements of the change required, I think, is to truly equip him or her with a framework for having the conversation with their team members, um, to make that decision quickly as to whether or not they're going to have them participate or not.
Right. Well, you want to have people in the class that have a desire, at least, to improve, succeed, whatever, in the class. But I have had clients actually enroll people in a class for the specific purpose to determine whether that person was the right person and capable of doing what it is they wanted them to do. And when they do that, my response is, okay, are you willing to invest X amount of money to find that out? And if we find out that they're not the right person, are you okay with it? In other words, what do we say? Uh, we turn winners into champions. We don't turn losers into winners. Okay, so we need to have somebody who at least has a desire to want to win, and we could turn them into a champion. Okay, but you can't change somebody else. Now, I've had people go through programs, sat down with the company. The person really never even finished the program, because generally by midterm, you're going to know whether the person's actually applying themselves or not, and come to the conclusion that the best choice with that individual is to help them find another position within the organization or outside the organization. Now, and I'm not trying to be negative, because the person really isn't happy in their job in the first place. And if they're not
Right,
happy in the job, then they need to find something where they're gonna be able to excel at. And apparently, this isn't the place.
right. Makes perfect sense.
Again, I might be a little bit harsh in that area, but I believe that in the long run, it's going to be for their benefit. Okay. Who else wants to jump in here?
I'd like to jump in. Good morning, everyone.
Hi, good morning, Roxana.
I actually just wanted to say to Karen that, you know, I'm still learning how to have smart goals and the right goals. However, I have to say that, for instance, I have right now 2 ladies, they are from the tax department. They came in not happy. Actually, we do a midterm presentation after lesson 3. And in that presentation, one of them said she asked herself why she was chosen to do the program, but they are so happy now. And initially, they would not agree with the EDM on the goal that they had to work on, because she wanted them to actually help develop and train other people, and they were totally overwhelmed, totally chaotic. They're supposed to go to court and win cases for government, so government will get more money. But the reality is that they had no clue how many cases they had. Both of them were totally demotivated. And this week, I was so touched when I heard their presentation, because they actually now said that they are motivated, they are on top of things, they know how many cases they have, they are prioritizing. And my point is this, you know, I may not be good in helping my clients still to set smart goals, but I find that helping them go through the program helps them in such a way that, you know, they are excited. And in this case, I was able to convince the EDM that they had to first get organized and feel on top of things before they can start training other people. And I think at this point, we're going now to lesson 4, no, lesson 5, and they are ready to start working on that goal, but initially they weren't. So, you know, I just want you to know that the programs are fantastic. We just help them go through it. Obviously, it's great to have the prime buying motive and have the right goals, but the transformation happens, and they are so happy. They actually told me that they wanted to continue with the programs even if they had to pay for it.
Wow. Okay, anybody want to respond?
Yeah, this, this is Alan. I'd like to respond a little bit. Roxanne, I agree with you 100%. Is that, gosh, it's all about communications, about giving people the respect of being different. And when you open up communications and you get people to start talking, it's amazing what you find out, and you really get to the root cause of what's going on.
Yeah, and initially, you know, sometimes it is daunting. I get angry participants coming to class, and the first few sessions are like going upstream a little bit. And actually, I want to share something that I'm doing now. You know, up to now, I have been offering the My Time workshop prior to the EPP. And what I notice is that the sooner they get started with the EPP, the better, because I notice that the moment people get started on the program, it helps them to start changing their mindset, their attitude. And so right now I'm shifting to having the My Time as part of each session. I've never done it before, but I think it's going to work better because people feel overwhelmed when they do the My Time first and then they do the EPP. So I'm experimenting with that because I noticed, and it took me a long time to notice this, but I've noticed that the moment they get involved with the program, the negativity is much less, and they start enjoying the program, and I see the changes on their faces, because sometimes it's almost like a battlefield.
Well, with the my time, if a person has never been exposed to any of that, and you hit them with all that at one time, it's like drinking from a fire hose. That's just one more thing to overwhelm them. And that's one of the reasons why in the EPP, there are sections in there for introducing bits and pieces of the my time on a weekly basis as you go along. Um, Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. That's a call you have to make, knowing your clients and what you're going to do. The other thing of what you mentioned about being in the program is having a positive aura. In other words, um, the the recordings and the material is going to give them hope. It's going to help them in their attitude. Um, and I'm thinking out loud here a little bit, because if you do a My Time workshop and then you do a goals workshop and then you actually do lesson one, you have those couple of weeks before you actually are able to get into, quote, the program. And something that I probably would do, knowing myself and knowing what I've done with a lot of my clients, and I used to buy the Power of Goal Setting. I made a deal and bought a whole bunch of them, and got a bulk price on it. Just because I gave away so many of them, I figured, how many am I going to give away within a 6-month period or longer than that? Because I used to use that Power of Goal Setting because that was something that was meaningful to me. Now everybody has something different that may be meaningful to them, but since I cut my teeth on the EPL or the DPL back then, the Power of Goal Setting was specifically or particularly important to me. And if I can get that into people's hands as they start a process, it was, to me, beneficial and worthwhile. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Sam, this is Alan.
Yes, Alan.
That article about paper remains essential for productivity. What kind of feedback are we getting on that? Because I've gotten tired over the years of fighting with people over the my time, wanting to go to the digital, and I've seen over the years the power of writing and the power of using the written. And some of the most successful people I have continue to use the written planner, but some of them also use the digital.
Yeah, and it's, if they can discipline themselves and they can develop the habits of doing it digitally, I'm fine with that. But if you can't do it on paper, you probably can't transfer that to a digital foundation. And that was something that was drilled into me by a person that I worked with when I was in the field, who was a computer consultant. And you have to remember that computers were brand new back then. Most of the people that had them were mainframes and not necessarily the personal computer. And he would send people to me and say, look, take them through a program, because all a computer can do is help you do what you know how to do faster. And if you're unorganized, it's going to help you become unorganized faster. You got to have a system. You have to be organized first. And that's a key aspect of what a person is doing. Some people are very good digitally. Other people, they're not. And what I find is things fall through the cracks. Digitally, that would not fall through the cracks if they put it on paper. But to me, it's more the individual and the discipline of the individual and knowing how to use it. But it's like anything else. A My Time isn't any good if you don't open it up and use it. The digital isn't any good if you don't open it up and use it. Okay, anybody? Nope, no other response on that? Okay, now we got 10 minutes left, and I'm going to ask Karen, because we spent a lot of time with Karen. Are you going to do anything different as a result of this call?
Yes, absolutely. I have two groups that are currently going on. One is in the middle of they have basically a week left to submit to me their goals. And so I'm going to touch base with them and maybe even just in an email send them some of the notes that I've taken from today to kind of help them get that clarity. But I feel like I'm going to lay out it differently in my next pre-conference so that right from the get-go, they have all the tools they need to clarify what they're looking, because this is such a foreign process for so many people. And I'm like, I think every time I do a goal setting session with people, I'm astounded at they just don't get how to set a goal. And so I've been taking notes left and right today.
Did you know how to do it before you came across LMI?
No, I'm goodness no.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, my goals before LMI would be a scratch piece of paper saying, going on vacation, have to pack tonight. This is what I need to put in my suitcase. That was the extent of my goals.
Okay, yeah.
I did.
And the reason I bring that up is because looking at the people that I've looked at as clients, et cetera, and they said, man, I said, don't worry about it. I was there at one time too. We're all there at one time. You have to learn. It's not intuitive to be able to do it. Okay. Do we want to continue talking about this subject, or do we want to move on to a new subject?
I like the subject.
Okay. Now, if that's the case, and like I mentioned, I like working with real live situations. Who has a real life situation that they would like to have some feedback on?
Specific to a win-win agreement?
Specific to a win-win agreement. I have a win-win agreement I'm working on, and you'd like to get some input on that specific items that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, I have clients that are currently doing the program, so it's a little bit late, but still I definitely have different clients I'm working with. And to me, it's also important that I better understand how I actually determine the return on investment. I'm still not really getting it.
Okay. Then because what I want to do is I want to start with the prime buying motive, and then have different people look at how they would proceed from a prime buying motive to getting a win-win agreement accomplished, and then look at the measurement of that win-win agreement. We haven't really gotten to that point yet. So that's what I'd like to do next time. Feedback? Anybody agree, disagree, like, dislike?
I'm very good with it. Go ahead.
Sam, this is Alan. I would really love to hear more about the measurement process to the win-win and how we can, really nail down that.
Okay. Now, Karen, do you have a measurement on the one that you're doing now with the city?
We have not gotten to that level. My last session with them, there's 5 of them in the group. I think because they all work together, they're very chatty, so it's a challenge to keep them focused. So 3 of them walked away with a specific goal, and we're going back after the kickoff to work on measuring and tracking. So I have a bit of time, which would be perfect to kind of discuss that.
Okay. Now we're going to have this discussion in 2 weeks on the measurement. You were saying?
Yeah, that would be great. So that would be perfect timing for me.
Yeah, and probably if we start with you because of your situation, and then Roxanne, I want you to have one if it's okay, and then we'll discuss yours, and then if anybody else has one, to throw out there, we can deal with that. But this way, at least we have a game plan for the next time we get together.
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we had a productive session today. We may end up getting a new person coming into the group from Belgium. As some of you may know, the individual that we had come through from Belgium talked to another associate in Belgium, and they contacted me and said, is it okay if I sit in on some of those calls? And I said, sure. So it'll be interesting to get a viewpoint from some other individuals and see how they perceive it. So anyways, good conversation, good discussion. I know we were a couple minutes early, but I'm going to save you some time that you can put to productive use, and saying this session has concluded.
Thank you.
Thank
Talk to y'all
you.
later.
Sam, I have a quick
Bye.
question for you, Sam.
Okay.
Steve Daniels was asking me if he's wanting to be part of an accountability group, and so I mentioned this one. Does he have to do anything special to join it?
No, not at all. And we also have a monthly accountability group called the Mega Group. Okay.
I know. I actually am interested in that one.
Okay. You are interested in that one?
Make it.
Yeah, it's
I don't know. Should I?
Well, it's the first Monday, and basically what we do in that group is everybody sets goals for the next month. Okay, so right now they have everybody set goals for November, and they set their yearly goal. That's we look at. We look at what is your number one personal goal and number one business goal for the year. That's the one that Randy talks about. Okay. So we have that, and they report on progress to date, and then they have what their goals are for the month that they share with the group, and then they come back the next month. They come back. They report on how they did with their goals, and then there's feedback from the group, and then they set the goals for the next month. Of what they're going to do in order to reach their goals. So that's what that calls about it. It's a monthly accountability group.
That might be a good one for me. I think I'll continue the rate stuff, but I think I need help with that, or more accountability with that, because I struggle the most with tracking my own goals.
Okay, good. And everybody who is in that group is a graduate from an EPL.
Okay, good.
Okay, so okay, cool. Next one is going to be December 3rd. Okay, and it's at 12 noon Central.
Okay.
And we use the same login, same everything, and we'll get you in there.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Sam.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks, Sam. This is good.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're here. Keep coming back.
Well, I want to get Valentina involved in this. One of the things that you have just a second, Sam.
Sure.
On the certification, the introduction for LMI, offering clients over 50 years. I've known so much about LMI, I didn't even read the whole thing, and somebody pointed a typo out in the top paragraph. And, so I decided I better read it. And Valentina gets tired of me saying, Valentina, I'm not going to do this crap by myself. It's just not worth it. And so I started reading through it, and in the second paragraph, year over year sustainable results, changes of process that involves